lunchtime with Crispy.
What in the world? Okay, goodness. What is up, everybody? We're here for some Durable by Design, where we eat some delicious, crispy. What's up? I'm joined today by Crispy Barnett.
Oh man, have you never seen that intro before?
No.
You've never seen that? Oh my gosh, yeah. That's my intro and outro in all my podcast episodes.
So we're doing. Anyway, we moved to StreamYard. Death Riverside. You piss me off. Be clear about it. You piss me off. We'll talk about that later. The way to be durable by design is not have AI bots on your CS. We'll talk about Fin and how it's just ridiculous. I have no clue why people think it works. It does not. But Riverside, you're dead. We're now in StreamYard. Woohoo! StreamYard. So anyway, we have some crazy intro. Okay, what makes us durable by design? It is today's episode is you are not durable by design if you do not have a financial model. Period.
Yeah. This is it's interesting because this is one of the hardest parts of getting to milestones in your. I'll use the agency model for this entire episode because I feel like that's most of our audience. Defining your financial model is extremely important, especially as you get to the point of surpassing 1 million, surpassing 2 million, so on and so forth. And defining those things improves your scalability to get to the next level.
Yeah. So I'm going to be your financial model. So what is a financial model to start with? And I'll talk about how do you get one. We're in planning season for 2016. And how do you think about creating a financial model? I'll present something here that is very efficient. It's very effective. It doesn't take a lot of work, but you'll be able to do it. Number one, just a premise of a financial model is, and I'm going to go this. When did you start doing your financial model when you were in workflow days?
I distinctly remember doing this after so there were a couple of things that triggered this. One is I wasn't able to answer the question of how profitable are we by customer? And that was like the snowball effect that led into a larger financial model that showed us profitability by team, how we forecasted our revenue, how we forecasted our commission payouts, things like that. And so it got really serious around the 500K to 1 million annual revenue mark, is what I remember. Yeah.
Okay. I think one thing different about Rep Partners is it is a bit different. This is a different starting place. I understand people gave excuses like buttholes. Everybody has one. And one of the things I've noticed about humans in general is when somebody does something like, well, I can't do it because I didn't have this. I'm going to be clear. We did it different and part of it is we did it different because I acted different. We smelled different. We looked different. And one of the things we acted different and looked different and smelled different. First off, you see how the way I talk is yes, no's. We brought a SaaS operating mentality. And the first thing we did is we had a financial model pre-built from day freaking one. We had what we wanted to do, how we're going to do it. We had gross margin predicted. We knew how we're going to do people. We knew how many we had structure and we had hypothesis built in. So premise number one, financial models are your strategy. So your numbers show or output, it's an output, and your outputs show your bets and they show and they reflect your strategy. So I will say, if you do not, you may have a strategy if you don't have a financial model. That's true. You may have one, but you can't have a financial model and not have a strategy.
So you mentioned you built this out from day one. Did you have target data points that you were measuring against in the model of this profitability, this milestone, stuff like that?
Yeah. So we'd be like, so there's two ways to do modeling. You can do it from goal-based and then go backwards, or you can do it, here's our current data and here's what we can predict from that. We didn't have any current data, so we couldn't do that, which is where most people start, which is what I'm going to give you today is how to do it from what you have today. What we did is hey, we want to, we had a mentor, as I was thinking about doing this, he goes 3.3 in 3 years. I was like, what does that mean? He's like, I invest in service companies that can get to 3.3 in 3 years. It's like that is my metric.
Yeah, that's your goal.
I was like, well, why? He's like, well, if you can do 3.3 in 3 years, you've done three things. You know how to do supply and demand, because that's a service company that's really fast growth. That means you can predictably create demand and you can predictably supply demand. And those two things must be shown in those two things. There's some kind of modeling that goes with that. So when I get this much money and I have this product, I need this amount of people to solve it. Number two is you have a product, and your product, you know what the demand is for that product. So there's some there. And number three is if there's a level of sustainability. If you're able to get to 3.3, that means you're about a 20-person, 25-person company, and you can start that shows me there's a lot of work that goes into that. There's long nights, and I just need you to do the work. So it's 3.3 in 3 years. Anyway, so we built a plan that said we're going to go 3.3. We're going to go to 5 million in 3 years. And if you do that, it just as soon as I say I'm going to go to 5 million in 3 years, what happens? How many leads do we have to have? What does our product have to look like? What does our pricing need to be? How do we go to it starts asking all these questions that are fundamental. They don't need to be right. You just need to have one. Okay, so premise one, if you have a financial strategy, if you have a financial plan, you have a financial strategy. You have a strategy. Number two is, and I learned this in the military, in college for military intelligence days, is my job in the military was to understand enemies and determine how they're going to react based on our plans. So think about that. That means I had to not only make my plans for our friendly forces, I had to know them intuitively. I had to know the landscape of others. I had to know how to act. And you had to come up with they call it your most likely course of action, the most dangerous course of action. And you had to think about what's going to happen when they do it. So to have a strategy, you must also know what? You must know the competitive landscape and where people are currently priced, what people are currently doing, how are you going to get your first, and you create a plan. And if you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail. And your plan never survives first contact with the enemy. So the whole point being is I see way too many. I see it all the time. I see a lot of people that have started without a plan, got traction because they had a strategy. They didn't know they had a strategy. But once they hit the first hurdle, they haven't thought about how they're going to hit it already. And because of that, they get stuck, they get locked, they get paralysis. And then all of a sudden they have cash flow problems. And so if you don't have a plan already, you're planning to fail. Yeah. Now, a financial model, it means you have a plan.
So I have a question. How do you? So I'll give you a scenario. How about this instead? You are back in the days of rep partners, right? And you're facing extreme growth. We have a lot of partners that face extreme growth because we enable it with them. And how do you build a financial model that can sustain extreme growth? And do you change the target if it's within sight because it was too easy, or you had a target that was too low?
Okay. So, this gets into, I like to call these the three financial plans. It's a great question, and here's how I answer it. And I do this in Super. This works regardless of business model that you have, and it works in the three financial plans. It's called, and I do them in confidence intervals. This came from Rob Foreman. He's the co-founder of Sales Loft. He also had a couple of companies before that I do CEO coaching from, and he came. And so the first one is you have 3 plans. You have your base plan. We call it your 60% confidence. You are 60% confident you're going to hit it. Not a slam dunk. It's hard. It isn't for sure, but it's based in some kind of a reality. So when you start, you're going to get to $1 million in a certain amount of time, and you just need a plan. Once you've been working for 1 to 2 years, you can now make your 60%. Just 1 year, 60% plan. And it's based in reality. And I'll talk about how to make that in a second. Your second plan is called your stretch plan. And it's if everything aligns. It's your moonshot. It's I'm 10% confident. It's probably not going to happen, but if everything hits, we're going here. And then you have a worst case. And it's if growth stalls, my plan that I hit, it just didn't happen. And you need these 3 plans. And I'll talk about why in a second. So first I'm going to talk about how to make your base plan and why it matters. So your base plan is simply this. And we're going through this now. Your average revenue growth for the last 4 months, month over month growth, just take it, your percentage. And it's this is your primary driver for next year. And we know this, the faster you grow, the longer you go, the harder it is to hit those growth numbers. 20% year over year growth is a lot freaking harder for a $10 million company because the numbers are just bigger than it is for $1 million company. And so so just know that. You then have, and all your base budgets are based on this growth. So you say, I can take that average and I'm just going to expect to grow at this plan, this rate. And so you have all your base based on that, on those investments.
Okay. I have one logistical question and then another question as well. Are you intending to share screen and show someone something right now?
Nope.
I want to make sure. Okay, great. Okay. Number 2 is, let's say that I have built an agency that has 6 months old, as an example. Do you still base it on the previous 4 months of data if you're building a financial model out, or do you just generally start from scratch and go from there?
I would start in the last 6 months or last 4 months. And I mean, if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. But do 4 months, base it in reality. And okay, if you were able to do, if you 100, like in 6 months, you're at 200K. Well, that means it's not like you've added 20K, 30K every month, right? So like there's a percentage, just put the percentage and grow it forward. And what do the numbers tell you? And is that scary? Is it not? And just do it. Like this is a planning model. Do your 60% confidence, take your last 4 months and do it and see what it says. And what would it look like for you to hit those numbers? How would you have to hire by month? And it will force you to ask questions like, oh, well, I guess I would like, what's my account to account manager ratio? How am I going to organize? Am I going to have, like in RP, we had pods. We had 3 account managers and they worked in a pod together and they had shared resources between those 2 people. And then once you got big enough, you couldn't do it, you would then hire another pod. So you'll go in these elements of profitability, go up and it'll go down, up and then go down because you have to hire. There's fixed costs to hiring and training at the beginning.
Do you map out that pod structure or hiring framework within the financial model as well as you scale?
Yes, you have to have your head count with it. Yeah, and so you can see, you should see your profitability and go up and down. And we had this idea of efficiency. You'd have the number of because every time you add a head count, you're like, okay, well, if I add an account manager that adds X amount of works per week, about hours per week, and and they're going to be underutilized. And so we had this efficiency score. So you're like, all this stuff, like as soon as you make a financial plan, you're going to be slapped in the face with having to answer it. And that's why it matters. You just get slapped in the face, or you're going to get slapped in the face. Why not do it before so you can grow? Because the worst thing you can do is not have thought about this and hit the growth metrics. Then you didn't hire early enough. Crap, we can't accept more work. There's paralysis in the business. This is why, I mean, we grew, we did 3.3 in 1 year. We did 10 million in 3 years as a service company. Because we had the plan, we already knew it was going to happen. We already knew what we were planning to, and so we had our hiring done. We were never left behind. So let's go to the next one. So we do it. The rest of this is really freaking simple. Your stretch plan is you take your base plan and you just make it 20% more. And what would happen if you were hitting these numbers? What would you have to hire to? What would change? What does it break? And you start thinking about and that planning of it. We'll do it. Never show anybody this plan except yourself, the founders. Do not show the company this plan. It's not a good one to show everybody. And the reason that you do it is management. It's like, what do we have to do if we're too successful? Because things start to break. They'll start breaking. Worst case. The whole point of the worst case is you take your 60% and you decrease it by 20%. You say your 60% base plan, whatever that growth rate was, you just hack it by 20%. And the reason you do this is it's all for cash flow, because you'll see yourself not hitting goals before they happen. And so instead of pre-making the hire, you can postpone the hire. and you know, okay, oh, this is what's going to make us unprofitable. This is what's going to hit our cash flow. And so as your revenue is not hitting, you already know what measures you have to decrease cash flow issues. Mm-hmm. This is where I see a bunch of partners. They haven't gone through this exercise. They don't know what to do. I've already pre-made, hey, if we don't hit this, we're not making that hire, we're pushing out for 2 months.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're mapping out some variation of good, better, best modeling, or worst, good, best.
Yeah. I like confidence, but yes. It's 60% is because it's not good, better, best. To me, it's like I'm 60% confident I'm going to hit this. I'm 90% confident, which is your low goal, we'll hit this, and I'm 10% we'd hit that. Because it doesn't, growth is not better. A lot of growth doesn't mean best. It just is. And all you can control is your inputs.
So the segmentation of the confidence levels has do's and don'ts embedded inside of them. So as in, when I have finished the quarter, I understand where I landed within each of these 3 models, and then that dictates what I do or don't do directly.
Yeah. And when you start getting the model, so let's say, because I remember doing this, in 2023, was it 22? We'd hit 10 million, and we're trying to do, what does it look like? And to like continue this growth. And we're like, holy moly, like, we literally, there's a numerical mathematical issue when you get to a certain number. If your churning your growth, and we had enough churn. It wasn't churn necessarily. It was just we did retention, and it's really freaking hard to keep people on retainer for a long time. It just is. Yeah. And so it was too long. And like, hey, we were growing, but like eventually our growth and our churn, because of the numbers were bigger. Like, crap, we got an issue, and we don't even know how to solve it. And so we were sitting there like, okay, so we created a playbooks team. We created a product team, and we made these investments, and we changed, right? We're going to stop growth. We're actually going to, on purpose, we're going to stop growth. We're going to build a playbooks team, and we're going to, like, for a year to 2 years, say we're going to stop because we're going to build our own methodologies out, because this is what we think will be strategic. And so we added, anyway, my point being is, these big decisions are all based on the financial plan, and they're reflected there. So if you don't have one, I have a post, we can put it in here, I rattle this out, if you don't have one, I highly recommend you do what I just said. You make a 60% confidence interval, you make a 10% confidence interval, you make a 90% confidence interval, and it's literally just based on the last 4 months of growth. On top line, everything else falls from there.
So you mentioned something that I think is worth looking into, which is you created the playbooks team, that's the non-recurring revenue product for RP, right?
No. The playbooks team is the product team, and all they do is teach and train account managers. And I don't know how it's organized. Here's how it was organized when I was building it out, because it was what spawned a little bit of Super when I was thinking through it. It's all they did was create playbooks for people to reuse over and over again. So they would create the kickoff discs. They created, and we had they created 100 plus playbooks, and it was all modular. And so it allowed people that didn't know how to do it to come in and get really good. And so our different, we said, hey, we're going to be if you come to Rev Partners, you're about to get your MBA in RevOps, and it'll be good to be known from coming from here. Yeah, that was the idea.
Got it. So then I think one thing
what's the product at a service company? People.
Yeah.
And so we're going to create an academy internally, essentially.
I think one thing that's a pro tip, I'll say, for partners that are listening, one of the most common questions that I get asked is, how do I change my model from a project-based revenue model to a recurring retainer-based revenue model? And the big lesson from this episode specifically is you cannot do that without the financial model. Many people think, I'll just change my strategy, change my sales process. That is such big financial impact on how you change your business and measure things. That you cannot do it without that.
Yeah. I'd be there is so many downstream impacts of changing from a project to a retainer model, or from a retainer to a project. So we actually, when I say this, we modeled, and the whole point, we modeled at 80% retainer, 20% nerves. We call it non-reoccurring versus reoccurring. And if we saw our revenue changing, it was like, crap, okay, we already have a plan. Hey, if we're 70%, because it would change how we hire and how we're going to support it. And some of our biggest issues were when we sold something different, and like our growth was not reflecting our model because our product is our people. And so if you have too much NER and you're not up, that is everything. And so you have to have metrics you're galvanizing people towards, and you're going to do. You can't just haphazardly be good.
Yeah,
it happens with intentionality and deliberately.
exactly.
You can't stumble your way into success. In any business, I'm gonna be clear. Everybody pretends like there is nobody that you've ever met in your life that has stumbled themselves into success. I don't care who you are; they're lying to you. If you find somebody, I just started our YouTube. Yeah, you started a YouTube video channel for like 5 years. You did crap, and all of a sudden, it hit. But it was because you put the hard work and effort into it. Nothing happens without intentionality.
Mm. Cool.
So make your financial models, boys and girls. Anything else to add here, Chris?
This should have been like episode 1.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
Okay, well, everybody stay awesome. Keep doing it big and never stop believing. Adios, everybody.
Crunch time with crispy.